Hi everybody. Welcome to the Data Migration Web Training. Here we will talk about the migration project and also the approach to migrate data to the SAP system. I hope you enjoy this journey. Welcome on board. Here you can see our agenda. This web training will cover the basics of two topics. First, data migration fundamentals. In this section, you will understand the process, approach, and best practices to migrate data from legacy to the SAP system. This is very important to reduce the negative risk in the project and also increase the chances of the project's success. We will also talk about project execution. In this section, we will discuss roles and responsibilities. It's very important to know which roles are involved in the data migration process and each responsibility. The success of the data migration to the SAP system depends on teamwork and the understanding and meaning of data. Some research shows that data migration projects run over time or over budget, sometimes both. This means that data migration is not an easy project and needs focused attention. Data migration must be part of a large strategic project. It is a tactical challenge, overlooking the fact that data is what drives the organization's key business processes. Without trusted, accurate data, the business cannot run efficiently, no matter how advanced and sophisticated the ERP systems are. The fact that many organizations underestimate just how complex data migration can be is reflected in reports stating that as many as 80% of data migration projects fail. Without the right approach or proper methodology to migrate data, companies often execute migrations simply by moving data from the legacy to the new system without a proper methodology. The approach an organization ultimately selects will depend on how well the business recognizes the importance of data quality to the successful deployment of the SAP application. Our intention is to encourage clients to think about the importance of having an approach and understand the related risks before embarking on their data migration project. Some questions can help thinking in a better planning of data migration. Why is data migration not treated seriously enough or not very well understood? Why is there a lack of experience and qualified resources? Why is not enough time spent to understand and to address data quality issues? Why are migration project plans unrealistic? In the next slides, we will present data migration fundamentals to mitigate risk and increase probability to succeed. To achieve an effective data migration procedure, data on the old system is mapped to the new system, providing a design for data extraction and data loading. The design relates old data formats to the new system's formats and requirements. Programmatic data migration may involve many phases, but it minimally includes data extraction, where data is read from the old system, and data loading, where data is written to the new system. Some key points to understand the data migration to the SAP system are: data migration is the process of moving data from a legacy system to a target system, in our case, SAP. Data migration may involve many phases, but it typically includes data extraction, where the data is read from the legacy system and placed into a staging area. Data cleansing and transformation of legacy data into the target system's format and requirements in the staging area. Data loading, where the data is written to the new system. Let's look at the phases and details. This important phase involves looking at the source system and the target system. It is important to understand the scope of the project, understand which SAP modules are being implemented, and to have a clear understanding which data from legacy will feed SAP systems. Data source is sometimes spread across several systems and several countries with different data models and data structures. That is a very important task to be mapped into the design phase as soon as the processes are modeled and defined. Some important points. You need to begin the planning process by taking an initial look at the source and target systems. There are no tools to do this. You must simply talk to the business users or data owners. At a high level, the team will identify subject areas, data entities, and supported data. One approach to performing the data profiling is to perform a target-led analysis, focusing the profiling on the entities and attributes that are most important in the target system. Data migration teams should work with the business analysts during the profiling process to resolve data quality and business data problems as they are discovered, rather than leaving this until late in the project lifecycle. Some important points. Once you have identified all of the sources that will be used to populate your new system, you need to perform a data quality assessment to understand your data and recognize any errors, inconsistencies, or omissions in the data. Talk to the business users and understand the complexities and business rules surrounding the data. Use a data profiling tool to analyze the source data and to understand the data challenges early in the data migration project so that late surprises are avoided. With data profiling, your goal is to look for big ticket items, missing data, data that is not fully populated, and column names that are inconsistent with the content. This is an important phase in the data migration process. Value mapping tables will establish a mapping between legacy fields and the new system, and if not possible, the fields must be enriched. In the overwhelming majority of cases, this involves a one-to-one match of legacy to target. However, as the definition suggests, this may involve splitting a value in one data store into a number of values in the target data store. Some key points. For all of the required tables and fields in the SAP target system, we need to know where the data is coming from and what we need to do to clean or transform it. Some of the target requirements will not exist in the legacy data store and will require the creation of new data, and not all legacy fields will be mapped over to the target. Much of the mapping is data analysis work. Understanding the business rules and the results of the data quality assessment will feed into the mapping effort. Data cleansing is the process of preparing legacy data for migration to a new system. Because the architecture and storage method of new or updated systems are usually quite different, legacy data often does not meet the criteria set by the new system and must be modified prior to migration. For example, the legacy system may have allowed data to be entered in a way that is incompatible with the new system. Architecture differences, design flaws in the legacy system, or other factors can also render the data unfit for migration in its present state. The data cleansing process manipulates or cleans the legacy data so it conforms to the new system's requirements. Cleansing for correctness and accuracy. Deduplication. Transforming is not necessarily cleansing. The data transformation involves transforming the data from the different source systems to a single format which is needed for new systems. Transform data in target for respecting the authorized values in the new system. Some points to remember. Once the data is cleansed, the source data is converted to format for loading into the target structure. Some of the source data will require little or no manipulation, while in other cases a number of different kinds of transformations will be applied, including filtering data and selecting only certain records or columns to load, joining data together from multiple sources, translating coded values, aggregating data or deriving a new calculated value, splitting a column into multiple columns, and generating surrogate key values. It is recommended that multiple cutover cycles are attempted, normally in the QA environment, but possibly in production. This will necessitate production being rebuilt in preparation for the real go-live, which needs to be scheduled. Some important points. Once the data has been cleansed and transformed, it can be loaded into the SAP target structures using one of the SAP load tools. While the choice of the tool depends on the complexity of the migration task, data quality, and data volume, LSMW is the most user-friendly and has the most functionality to handle varying levels of data quality and data volumes. Since there are data dependencies, each business object must be loaded in a particular sequence, i.e. GL accounts, profit centers, cost centers. Testing should also include simulations in a QA and production environment to determine actual load times during the cutover weekend. This phase is very important to validate and test the data to guarantee the correct operational activities of the business. Very important steps and points of this phase are: once all of the conversion programs have been run and the data has been loaded into your target system, the data needs to be validated and reconciled. Integration testing is performed to ensure that enhancements, end-to-end business processes, and integration with third-party systems can be conducted with the migrated data. End-user readiness checks are performed, and if all goes well, the system is go live. Now, let's have a look at the project execution and how it is important to define roles and responsibilities. As data migration is usually part of a large strategic project, organizations often approach it as a tactical challenge, overlooking the fact that data is what drives their key business processes. Without trusted, accurate data, the business cannot run efficiently, no matter how advanced and sophisticated the ERP systems. When data migration is poorly executed, the impact and cost to the business can be substantial, with ramifications reaching well beyond internal operations and the project itself. Data migration should be treated as a sub-project and needs to have a separate set of specialized resources in order to deal with the complexities and challenges of dealing with the data quality issues associated with migration. Let's have a look at some risks involved. Migrating data from your legacy application into a new SAP environment is inherently complex. Many underestimate this complexity and are tempted to consider quick fix solutions that focus on simply technically loading the legacy data. However, getting the data to technically load is not enough. Successful data migration means getting the data to work, so there's no business process disruption on go live, and this requires a strategic approach to planning and delivery. A data migration project includes many risks and challenges that can impact the cost and timeline if not properly managed. There will be a significant number of changes throughout the implementation, so a solid baseline is required to manage the change. Some important points to consider. Documentation. The documentation of scope and approach must be complete to establish the boundaries of the implementation. Customer expectations. Clear and precise expectations must be set on the number and type of resources required, along with the allocation of their time on the project. Dependencies. All project dependencies must be clearly defined and monitored to determine potential impact to the migration effort. Assumptions. The estimates and plans are based on many assumptions. These assumptions must be clearly documented, communicated, and monitored throughout the implementation. Data quality. This is always the biggest unknown for a migration project. The devil is in the details. Constant monitoring of data quality issues is required to determine the potential impact of design, development, and testing tasks. Here we describe some important roles, but not all roles, that may be involved in the data migration project. Project manager owns the scope of the project, manages relations and project issues with business users and stakeholders, creates and maintains the project plan and communicates tasks and status updates, manages external project dependencies. Migration lead prepares the data migration approach document in collaboration with the SAP consultants, team leads, process owners, and solution architect, coordinates activities to migrate data from legacy to SAP system, participates in the cutover planning. SAP consultants collaborates with the data migration lead to identify the field mappings and dependencies, details the functional approach to post the data, history fields, dependencies, identifies the conversion objects in the individual area and the approach to load the data, assists in the validation of the data loaded into the system. Team leads and process owners collaborates with the data migration lead to identify the field mappings and dependencies, details the requirements for history, specific fields which need migration, identifies the conversion objects in the source system. Solution architect provides technical leadership to the data migration team, overall design of the application and mapping the business requirements to systems technical requirements, works as a team member along with the project manager, developer, and technical architect to deliver the complete solution for the customer. Now let's see how the data migration approach will be conducted in our project. The objective of Field Mapping Session is to identify the mappings of the data elements, tables and fields, from the legacy system to KGS system, Contron Global SAP, for data that are required to be migrated. How will it work? You will receive a detailed agenda with these dates and workshops you will have to attend. These sessions are very important for us. We will discuss and map the tables and fields from the legacy to KGS system. This is a very important activity to understand what will need to be migrated and what we will have to do. During the mapping session, some mapping possibilities can happen. Field exists in KGS and legacy with a 1-to-1 value match. Field exists in KGS and legacy, but with a value mapping is needed. Field exists in legacy, but not in KGS. Field exists in KGS, but not in legacy. During the workshops, each participant will have responsibilities. We map the roles and responsibilities in advance. Please take a look at this table and see what we expect from you. Thank you very much for your time. For further information, please access www.sap.com and search for Data Migration.